Greetings, friends. So often, when it comes to my sense of self, the focus tends to be on the doings of the world. The focus is on what I'm doing, what others are doing, how I'm being perceived. There's kind of this outward focus on the tangibles of the activities and the circumstances, and our identity gets wrapped up in those surface elements. In today's video, we're going to be talking about moving our identity, the focal point of who we are, from the surface level of doings into our own intimate ways of being. Stick around. If you've been following my channel, you know my work, you know that I love analogies. So let's continue with that. Imagine there's an ocean here, and at the top we have our ever-changing, ever-undulating waves. And as we move in this direction, we reach the oceanic base, which is the essence, the foundation, the common denominator, the stability of all of those ever-changing waves. So in the context of this video, when we attach our sense of self to our doings, to what we're doing, the results of those doings, how other people think and feel about those doings, when we attach our sense of self in those circumstantial elements, it's much like the ocean identifying with the waveforms. It's losing its true depth, its true essence, when it forgets in that moment and it attaches its identity, its sense of self, to something that's happening. So the doer is mistaking him or herself for the doing. From the largest, most expansive cosmic perspective, we could say yes. From unity consciousness, the doer, the doing, and that which is done is all unified. But we're speaking to a specific level of spiritual evolution here. And because so many of us attach our sense of self to what we're doing and what is happening in the world, the next most supportive step, going back to this, the next most supportive step is to settle down in this direction, so we begin to identify with the more subtle levels of consciousness, instead of just dropping all the way down here to unity consciousness and saying, oh, it's all one. Why are we even having this conversation? We settle down into a more subtle realm where we can play here and we can begin to explore our ways of being as a much more accurate, resonant, aligned, and empowered sense of self. So when you connect to a way of being, it's a quality of consciousness. It's not a particular thing, place, situation, or time period. It's a metaphysical quality that you awaken from potentiality within your own field, and then you get to express that in your life, in your challenges, in your activities. So instead of focusing on the challenges, tasks, and activities as your reference point for who you are, we get to go behind that and stand in the powerful question of, who do I get to be? How do I want to show up to myself and for the world? What ways of being are exciting for me now and exciting for the person that I'm becoming? So if I tap into who I am at my best right now and the person I'm evolving into, what ways of being do I find are present? Loving, fearless, courageous, confident, empathetic, intuitive, kind, funny. What ways of being get you excited and feel like, oh yeah, that's me, I want more of that. So start to tap into the more subtle realm of your ways of being, and then begin to explore, how can I actualize, how can I express that quality of consciousness that I really resonate with? How can I be a conduit for that in the world? So if it's love, if it's courage, if it's authenticity, if it's empathy, once I connect to that way of being as my set point, it's who I am, it's the quality that I'm choosing to imbibe, to become, to resonate as. How can I express that quality in the world? And it gets really interesting now. Now we'll begin to orient our consciousness around ways in which we can be an expression of that inner quality. So you'll actually now be looking for opportunities to love, looking for moments to be courageous, finding little niches and glitches where you can show up as authentic. So once you connect to your ways of being, and this is exciting because you're designing your sense of self. When our sense of self is attached to our doings, who we are is being decided for us. It lives in our story about their perception. It lives in that particular outcome. It lives in my judgment of myself about this or that. But when I'm connected to my way of being, there's this kind of invincibility shield. It's all self-contained. This video topic came up. I was working with one of my coaching clients, and he's going through this coding, C-O-D-I-N-G, this coding school program, and he comes up against these. There's a trash truck beeping. Please forgive that. Let's continue. My coaching client comes up against these moments in his process where he feels stuck. He hits a dead end. He doesn't know what to do. He questions if he's on the right track, if he should even be studying this particular material. And his sense of self starts to become wrapped up in the doings of the coding process, of the workflow. He starts to connect who he is with how the actual activities are going. And so this became a catalyst for us to slow down these moments, take a step back, and instead of making his identity about what was happening in his workflow, bring that in, rein that in, and connect to who he was being. How was he showing up in the midst of those challenges? Was he being committed? Was he showing up as creative? Was he showing up as embodying self-love in the midst of a challenge? What were his ways of being? Even though shit was kind of hitting the fan and he was feeling stuck, instead of making that his new sense of self, no, let's move deeper into our own essence. Who am I showing up as, and who do I get to show up as in the face of this situation? So this is about having our sense of self move towards the more subtle realms, more towards the ocean down here, and less tied to the doings and happenings of the wave. So how can you move more towards the ocean in your sense of self and release and surrender attachment to the wave forms? Where in your life are you attaching your sense of self to what's happening in the world? And where can that be an opportunity to move your point of focus inward and connect to what really resonates for your ways of being. Make your set point, your sense of self, internally derived, and make that's a divine agreement. I'm committed to this way of being. That's such an awesome internal juicy agreement. And then you get to share that with the world. So inner alignment, inner connection, making your sense of self deeper and self-contained such that it's not dependent on any particular happenings. And then you get to share from the inside out. Meditation, breath work, yoga, coaching, accountability, all of these tools greatly support us in being able to spontaneously live our sense of self from our beingness and less from our doingness. I hope and trust that this video was supportive. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate. And my name is Matthew Spangler of The Meditation Effect, and I will talk to you really soon. Namaste.